Thank you very much. Lucky me to be speaking before lunch. I wanted to open with an observation that was made by a visitor to a country that was not his own. It is, he said, a land in which everything is in constant motion and every change seems an improvement. The idea of novelty there is indissolubly connected with the idea of amelioration. As educated and worldly Americans, I'm sure that many of you, upon hearing this observation, find yourselves asking a similar question. I wonder which of the many fast-growing economies around the world this writer is describing. Is it China? Is it India? Or maybe Brazil? Though it would be natural to think that one of these answers were correct, in fact, the country to which our writer refers is none of the above. It's not in Asia, nor South America, nor even Europe or Africa. As hard as it might be for us today to believe, the country that our writer, Alexis de Tocqueville, was describing turns out to be one that should be familiar to each and every one of us, because that country is our country in the 19th century. A place where, as de Tocqueville properly understood, the present seemed to be birthing the future before his very eyes, where the only limit to one's potential was the scope of one's imagination. And yet, today, our country feels like a very different place, a place of shrinking ambition, where the future is something that too many fear rather than embrace, where our most distinctive national trait, a deep-seated belief that each day will be better than the day before, appears to be fast giving way to a new concern that perhaps our best days are now behind us. And let's face it, this uncertainty about our place in the world going forward is not entirely misplaced. Just look at the facts. Today, China and India combined graduate roughly 8 times more engineers than the United States. Whereas in 2005, the United States' share of global high-tech exports was 21%, today it has dropped to 14%, while that of China has more than doubled. And whereas in 2000, the US share of world R&D spending was nearly 40%, today it has fallen to closer to 30%. Sobering statistics for sure. But before we allow ourselves to wallow too much in national self-pity, let's stop and take a deep breath. For, as always, reality is never entirely black nor entirely white. While other nations may be catching up to our top position, we still remain the global leader in innovation. Our universities are second to none. Our technology companies, the envy of the world. In short, we remain the only country that still has the capacity single-handedly to remake the future. A country where, as de Tocqueville observed, novelty remains a critical part of our national DNA. Which means that if we summon the will, we have what it takes to overcome our current challenges. But how do we do this? How do we turn around our national attitude and start once again to believe in ourselves, to take the steps necessary to build again for the long term, rather than thinking solely about the difficulties that we face in the short term? Well, in many ways, I think that the answer can be found right here in New York City. A city that has, throughout its history, been buffeted by global economic trends, and as a result has time and again been forced to reinvent itself, just as it is once again doing during these difficult times. Not avoiding reality, but facing it. Not looking forlornly at the past, but looking resolutely towards the future. So what is our city's secret recipe for success? How, under Mayor Bloomberg, have we been able to shake off the doldrums that have hamstrung so many other Americans? At the heart of our approach is the belief that for our city to thrive going forward, we must be ready for nothing short than complete transformation, not just of our underlying economy, but of our physical environment as well. Which is why the mayor in both good times and bad has, unlike our national leaders, been so insistent upon continuing to invest in our future, rebuilding and improving our basic infrastructure, constructing new amenities to attract the best and the brightest to the city, and in some cases, creating whole new neighborhoods to serve the unmet needs of our populace. In fact, even in our currently challenged fiscal environment, the mayor's capital budget commits the city to spend nearly $27 billion in the 5 boroughs over the next 5 years, nearly 20% higher than the equivalent figure immediately prior to the mayor's first term in office. But of course, even if we successfully complete our physical transformation, we in the Bloomberg administration have always believed that investment in infrastructure is only half a strategy. Because a 21st century physical plant supporting a 20th century economy will inevitably be doomed to failure. Which brings us to part 2 of the New York model, transformation of the city's underlying economy. So how do we expect to accomplish this goal? The answer is through a set of initiatives, nearly 100 launched just since 2008, developed in conjunction and being implemented in partnership with the city's dynamic private sector. These initiatives aim to address 3 separate but related challenges. First, we're working to help so-called legacy industries. These are the industries in which the city has traditionally been a leader, industries like fashion, financial services, and media. With these industries, we're helping our companies to transition from 20th century business models to 21st century business models. A good example of our efforts towards this end is provided by the Media Lab that we launched with Columbia and NYU Poly in 2010, the first municipally sponsored media lab in the entire United States. This institution, which already has 200 academic and corporate partners, is intended to help businesses in the media industry to see around the corner and anticipate and adapt to changes in technology before they arrive, while simultaneously connecting these businesses with the cutting-edge work that's taking place in the academic laboratories across the 5 boroughs, pulling this research out into the marketplace as quickly as possible. The second prong of our efforts to transform our city's economy is geared towards attracting growing industries, industries in which we know New York has competitive advantages, but in which, for one reason or another,